My beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. And welcome back. I hope your week has been just outstanding and you're ready to dig into some business today because we got a lot to get into. And it is, of course, a lovely Friday. We made it through another busy week, but we're not done yet. Quick preview on what's coming up. Then we'll zoom in for further detail because we got some good filings to get into. But the Trump DOJ celebrating a big victory against Judge Boasberg. We remember who he is, and he, of course, was presiding over the JGG case. And we just got this order coming down on this one saying that you lose. This was the judge holding Trump in contempt, or attempting to, saying turn those airplanes around and all the things. And so he is now going to be getting essentially reversed. The Court of Appeals granted Trump's request to stop this whole contempt nonsense, and we're happy to see it. It's about time. So we're not sure that this is going to stick because they'll probably appeal it to the entire circuit, and we'll see if they come back down and change it or what the Supreme Court ultimately does on this. But as it stands right now, big victory. Boasberg blown out. Bad boy Boasberg. So we'll talk about that. We got some other reaction. Senator Whitehouse. Oh, golly. Hang on a second. It's the strangest thing sometimes when we start to stream, the display capture just turns into a little goofy. There it goes. So we're back over here. So you didn't see what I was just sharing with you earlier, but it's this document here. We're going to be looking at this today, and it's going to be a lot of goodness inside. So we'll see what's going on. Big decision. Pam Bondi very happy about it, and it's good. This is going to send a shockwave to all the other anti-Trump TDS judges that are out there. So we'll go through all of it. Then we have another Trump's DOJ sent an emergency application into the Supreme Court of the United States. And this is about some immigration stuff coming out of California. So Kristi Noem's filing this one up to SCOTUS. We know they're not in session at the moment, but we still need them to act on this because we've got lower level judges who are acting a fool. And so we'll go through that, see what is happening there. Got some reaction on some immigration stuff from Tom Homan and Stephen Miller coming up. And then we'll turn our attention to Big Tish, the biggest attorney general in the state of New York. I mean, the biggest, political person in the government, goes to what the attorney general is. Big Tish is in big trouble. She's getting a subpoena and it's coming over her way from the DOJ. And we're excited to see what that looks like too. So we got some reaction on this, couple different reports on what exactly happened. One from Politico, one from the New York Post. We got Tish's spokespersons coming out explaining what's going on. Gateway Pundit reminds us about her other criminality. And so it's going to be a lot of fun to see what happened here, because you remember little comments like this from Tish, where she was out here saying, no one's above the law. Yeah. How's it feel there, Tishy? So we'll come back to that. And it's going to be a great and beautiful stream. And we're very glad that you're here. If you would like to become a member, we'd love to have you as a member. We had a great members only stream this morning talking about a bunch of other stuff we can't get to here. And we'll be back tomorrow on Saturday with a members only stream. And I think we'll get into some Texas stuff tomorrow, some of the Texas Democrat stuff, because that's kind of all percolating right now. Stuff's getting in there. So we'll hit that tomorrow. Members, we'd love to have you. Come join us on Saturday. Join us in the after parties. Join us on the members only morning streams. We have a great time. We have an awesome members only community. We'd love to have you join us. And it's a great way to support our work. And we appreciate you. So thanks for joining. You can join by clicking the join button on YouTube, going to watchingthewatchers.locals.com, and we'll see you over there in the after party today. All right, so let's get into it, my friends. Big victory from the Trump DOJ announced by Pam Bondi, saying our Justice Department attorneys just secured a major victory defending President Trump's use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport illegal alien terrorists. Now, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, we're going to go through the decision, affirmed what we've been arguing for months, that Judge Boasberg, and I'll remind us of who he is, in his attempt to sanction the government for deporting criminal alien terrorists was a clear abuse of discretion. Something we've been screaming here for months. We will continue fighting and winning in court for President Trump's agenda to keep America safe. And you may remember Boasberg over from our prior conversations about this. It's this fellow right here. And we learned a lot about him. He's a Barack Obama appointee. He has been very aggressive in the anti-Trump stuff. He sentenced Ray Epps, if you remember, And he's been involved in this case for quite some time. And he said, you turn those illegals around and you bring them back into our country. And so we've been following him for quite some time. And he then, after he got told by the Supreme Court that he was wrong, moved forward with holding Trump in contempt, holding the DOJ, the lawyers, in contempt, saying, you should have followed my illegal order. And how dare you not follow my illegal order? Well, he just got told by the Court of Appeals. Let's go through it. Now, before we get there, here is what he got told on. All right. This is called a mandamus. Now, we're going to see kind of a couple of different issues in the appeal and in the order. One is kind of about the jurisdiction of the appeal. And so Trump was saying a couple of things like, one, we're appealing that lower level order, which is terrible and wrong. And also we're filing kind of a separate claim that's pretty much the same, but it's for a writ of mandamus. And so we're asking you, higher court, to tell the lower court, you done acted a fool. And so that's what this is called. It's called a mandamus. It's Latin for you done acted a fool, I think. I don't know. It says it is an order from a court to an inferior government official ordering the government official to properly fulfill their official duties or correct an abuse of discretion. Now, according to the DOJ, they say mandamus, according to their manual, is an extraordinary remedy. Like the court's never granted because it's a lot. It's like you're going to tell another judge they were wrong, which should only be used in exceptional circumstances of peculiar emergency or public importance. So the fact that this was successful against Boasberg shows just how bad this is, right? In federal courts, these orders most frequently appear when a party to a lawsuit wants to appeal a judge's decision, but it's blocked by rules. Instead of appealing, the party simply sues the judge, seeking mandamus, compelling the judge to correct the mistake. You were wrong. Generally, this type of indirect appeal is only available if there's no alternative means. Now, the All Writs Act gave the Supreme Court and all courts established the authority to issue these. And so that's what we're talking about today. So extraordinary remedy. In other words, we don't grant this just willy-nilly. You got to do something pretty bad before we get there. That's according to Cornell Law School. So here is the order that has come down. Now, two of these judges were Republican judges, and one of them, I think, was an Obama judge. And this is the order. We also have the full memo that we'll take a look at. But here is what they wrote down for us. All right. Upon consideration of the emergency motion for a stay pending appeal from the Trump DOJ, or in the alternative, a writ of mandamus, or either appealing it or we need you to come in here and correct this separately. The motion to dismiss the appeal, we've read it all. We've read the letter. We've read the supplements. We've done further fact finding and all the things. And so now that we're here, we've read the briefings, and here is our decision after considering all of this. It is hereby ordered that some people can come in and participate as amicus. A little anticlimactic on that one. But it is also further ordered that the motion to supplement the record on appeal be granted so we can continue to develop this. Now it's further ordered, and you might read this saying, the motion to dismiss the appeal be granted. You say, oh, Trump's appeal got dismissed. Oh no. And though that the petition for a writ of mandamus be granted. Boasberg blown out. Bad boy Boasberg. And the district court's contempt related order entered by Boasberg on April 16th is vacated. Punk. In accordance with the per curiam opinion that we'll take a look at next. Separate concurring opinions of the other judges, Katsas and Rao, and the dissenting opinion of Circuit Judge Pillard accompany the opinion. Now, a grant of mandamus relief will become effective, and the administrative stay will dissolve 21 days after the issuance of this order. So get your affairs in order, Jeb. And that the emergency motion is dismissed. You don't need an emergency motion. You're not appealing anything because we just gave him the old legal backhand. Bad boy. The clerk is directed to withhold issuance of the appeal related mandate herein until 7 days after. And there could be, right, a petition for a rehearing on this on bonk, which means we want to bring in the full panel, not just the three judges who decided this. So Jeb Boasberg having a rough one today. And let's take a look at the memo. And we've been saying this for months now. The DOJ has been saying this for months, but just let's not forget, part of this operation is just to delay, okay? If they can make Trump's 4 years less effective, if they can make him operate at 50% rather than 100%, the administration rather, right, on behalf of us, then that's a partial win for them. It's not a total win, but they do get some benefit from slowing him down. So yeah, like we're getting a reversal on this, and this judge is getting scolded a bit, right? And this exceptional remedy is being granted against him. It's not an honorary thing to say you abused your discretion. So what does that mean practically, though? Well, he was still a useful soldier, right? He still delayed a bunch of stuff, required the DOJ to subsume a ton of resources into this, and caused delays to the effectuation of the policies of the new administration. So this is what the memo says. Now, it's a big fat one, and we got a bunch of concurring opinions, and it's very technical. So we'll just hit the highlights on it. You can see it's 110 pages, but it has come down from the District of Columbia, the DC Circuit, United States Court of Appeals, saying bad boy Boasberg. So with a little bit of a summary here at the beginning, they say, all right, per curiam, this is the opinion of the court. This matter, in front of Jeb, is arising from challenges to the government's removal of Tren gangbangers. They say Trump entered an illegal order and a proclamation saying that they're terrorists under the Alien Enemies Act. So what happened is we saw this. Trump comes in, a couple months later, gangbang lawyers come filing in here, crashing into the courts like clown cars. 5 alleged gangbangers sued on their own behalf and as representatives. They got an order that was proposing a class of all of the gangbangers saying you have to halt our removal. Now, that same day, Boasberg, that judge, he held an emergency hearing. We remember, what? He didn't even give the DOJ really an opportunity to respond. And he came out, he said, oh, gangbangers, love you guys. Yeah, you're a class now. You're certified as a class. And there's a temporary restraining order. Trump, the duly elected president who has lawful authority and in many cases valid orders of removal, can't remove anybody because I'm the president now, says Jeb, barring their removal. The government, nonetheless, flew class members from the United States to El Salvador and transferred them to the custody of the Salvadoran authorities. Now, I might take issue with that, right? I think that's framing it in favor of Jeb Boasberg. We remember in this one, and I think they're going to get into it, but there was a battle over this. Like Jeb gave the order orally, verbally in court. He said, turn those planes around. And they said, oh, is that like what you're going to order? Okay, so I guess we'll wait for your written order and you'll tell us exactly what you want us to do. And then we'll do it. But until that time, we're going to continue our deportations, obviously. So once you tell us what we can stop and not do anymore, we're going to continue to do what we're doing. So we can mince words on that, whether the actual order was in effect at the time of his oral statement or at the time of the written statement. I think we'll get into that again. But according to the government, the temporary restraining order from the judge barred only the removal of class members from U.S. territory. And that had already occurred before the TRO was entered. Okay. DOJ said, no, we didn't violate anything. Okay. They were already in the air. They were already across national lines. So it's not your jurisdiction anymore. You don't have power. So sorry. According to the district court, the judge said, I do have power. It did bar removal of class members from U.S. custody, okay? It wasn't about the physical territory. It was about custody. And you still had custody of them down in SCOTUS, so put them back on a plane and bring those gangbangers back. And the government likely violated it, said Jeb, by transferring class members to SCOTUS and El Salvador. So then in response to these events, the district court Judge Jeb, James E. Boasberg, he came out and he issued an order accompanying opinion, and he found probable cause, remember, which is like a crime, that some federal officials willfully violated the TRO. Well, I think there's evidence of criminality here. And so we're going to have an investigation because you violated my order, which was illegal and totally invalid. I mean, and also undefined in many ways. Now, the court offered the government an option to purge the putative contempt by taking custody and bringing them back. Remember, the Supreme Court said, you're wrong, Jeb. Sorry, you lose. You don't have the authority to tell the president to return people who are already out of the country. So stop that. The judge said, okay, fine, I won't. I guess I was wrong. But at the time I issued my order, you violated it. Okay, so now it's been reversed, but you should have still followed the order, is the argument. Because you think about it from a public policy perspective. They don't want people to say, well, I'm just going to ignore the order pending appeal. No, you got to follow the order, and then you can undo it after the appeal is over. So the judge went and found a bunch of case law and said, well, I guess I can still prosecute you for this, and did so. So now we're on appeal. Now, the court also stated that if the government says we're not going to purge this, in other words, the judge said, you can comply, again, with my illegal order, and then I will stop my illegal contempt proceedings against you. And he's like a federal judge who just is still on there having a straight face. Like, maybe he has a straight face. I don't know. He might be laughing himself to sleep every night. I don't know. But it must identify the executive branch officials who, aware of this court's TRO, made the decision not to halt the transfer of class members out of custody. The court further came down and they said, you know, the next step, says Boasberg, is we're going to request that contempt be prosecuted by an attorney for the government, right? He's going to unleash the DOJ to be prosecuted by the DOJ. And it stated, if the government declines or in the interest of justice requires, the court will appoint another attorney to prosecute the contempt case. So the judge will appoint like an independent counsel, some sort of special, officer of the court to prosecute somebody or something. Now, the government appealed this. They said, there's no probable cause order, judge. You can't make this up, Jeb. And they moved for an emergency stay on appeal or a writ of mandamus, saying you have to tell this judge like he's acting ridiculous. You have to terminate these criminal contempt proceedings right now. So they then moved to dismiss the appeal, and the court granted the stay, and here we are. Now, the court writes, we grant the motion to dismiss the appeal. The panel's unanimous because we don't have appellate jurisdiction. Okay, like this is not a proper appeal. We can't do anything on the appellate rules. But Judge Katsas and Judge Rao do conclude that the government, the DOJ, has satisfied, remember those exceptionally stringent requirements for the writ of mandamus. It's an exceptional remedy. The court, therefore, grants the government's petition for mandamus. Jeb Boasberg loses and vacates Jeb's probable cause order. Oh, Judge Pillar dissents. Very unhappy about this from the grant of mandamus and the vacatur. So let's hit some of the highlights. It's a major opinion. We will just see some of what's going on here. But here is the first judge, Judge Katsas, writing, concurring in what we just read. That was a summary of the entire thing. This is the actual decision and memo. Now, this case involves an extraordinary ongoing confrontation between the executive and the judicial branches. Yeah, thanks to them. Trump is actually just executing the laws of the presidency to which he's entitled because he won the election. Jeb didn't. On March 15th, Trump sought to implement a proclamation. And there were planes of 100 alleged gangbangers flying out of here. They said, bring him back. The judge said, you violated my orders. Now, in response to these events, Judge Jeb issued criminal contempt proceedings. He said, well, if you then follow my illegal order, then I will not hold you in contempt anymore. Now, at the end of all of this, we're familiar with what happened, lies a much simpler question. Here's the question. By its own terms, did Jeb's order, did his TRO, did it prohibit the government from, quote, removing gangbangers? This prohibition could be interpreted in either of two ways. It might have barred the government from simply expelling detainees from the territory, or it might have been custody. But Jeb doesn't give the DOJ any benefit of the doubt, right? There's no presumption of good faith between the branches anymore because there's a judicial coup and insurrection happening by these judges under the color of law. And then they are holding it in default against Trump, presuming there's some maliciousness, presuming there's some criminality, not giving them the benefit of the doubt, the good faith basis for believing that they were actually interpreting it correctly. Judge just goes, up, contempt, prosecute. All agree that the government did not violate the TRO under the former view. If your crap order, Jeb, you should have been more specific about it. If it is territory, then Trump is valid, totally fine. So the contempt question boils down to a straightforward interpretive dispute over what actually constituted removing within the meaning of the TRO. And it's pretty incredible how much these illegal aliens, right, get all these benefits of all this analysis about what is removal for them, Tren de Aragua, Jeb Boasberg, like all this analysis for them when it's clearly already been in Trump's power to do it. For purposes of criminal contempt, ambiguities in the underlying injunction must be resolved in favor of the alleged contemnor. So if we see that Trump does have a hole in the line of scrimmage that they can run through and say, oh, that's our argument right there. We didn't remove anybody from the territory. They were already out of the territory. So we followed your order to the T. Oh, got us. Okay, so that's one interpretation of it. So you have to give them the benefit of the doubt. You can't hard charge them with crimes for that. At the time of the alleged contempt, just hours after the TRO hearing and before any transcript was even available, the minute order could reasonably have been read either way, Jeb. Thus, the TRO cannot support a criminal contempt conviction here. You can't just make up ambiguous orders and then hold people in criminal contempt. The government has sought review of this order, and they're doing it by mandamus. Now, there is no basis for appeal right now, but mandamus is appropriate because the government, Trump, is plainly correct about the merits of the criminal contempt argument. And our saying so now would prevent long disputes between the executive and the judiciary over these difficult, contentious issues, and over foreign policy questions and criminal sanctions for violating injunctions. Your injunction was entered without jurisdiction. You're going to hold, I'm so happy they said that. Or to impose criminal sanctions for violating injunctions entered without jurisdiction, okay? The judge didn't have the jurisdiction to issue an order against Trump to do what he said to do. And then holds him in criminal contempt for that. It's lunacy. Now, in circumstances much less fraught than these, courts have reviewed orders through mandamus to prevent this extended interbranch conflict, which has come out from the judge. He never had jurisdiction. For these reasons, I concur in the order, granting the petition for mandamus and vacating the probable cause order. Now, a lot of background on this, so let's fast forward. That was his initial summary of it. Goes on for like 50 pages, explaining it in good detail. We'll fast forward to the next actual concurrence, which it's down here. We're going to keep scrolling. Here it is. Rao. He says, now, I am also concurring in this. This case arises in the midst of a high-stakes clash between Jeb and Trump. In March, Trump issued a proclamation ordering the removal of members of TREN. The following day, they did remove. But while the removal was in process and after 2 planes had already left the United States, Jeb entered a TRO. He said, don't remove anyone. The Supreme Court then vacated the TRO, holding the district court lacked the authority to issue it. The Supreme Court says you don't have the power, Judge Jeb. That should have ended it. It didn't. Of course, he took it. He said, yes, I do. Get out of here. Were you the Supreme Court and the president? What are you talking? I'm the president. Despite the Supreme Court's decision, Jeb sought to remedy what it perceived, Jeb did, it's him, perceived as the executive's noncompliance, relying on its criminal contempt authority against the co-equal branch of government, as we say. The court issued an order finding probable cause that the government officials at the DOJ willfully violated the order by not turning the planes around. No, you should have gone right into the pilot and said, flip this around. Well, we're in the middle. We don't have fuel. We got to land over here. We've got international agreements. They're expecting us at this time. We've got a whole... Too bad. Bring them back because I'm Jeb and I love illegals in our country. The order offered the government a choice. You can follow my illegal order. You can come into compliance with my vacated TRO, such as by asserting custody over the individuals detained in El Salvador. Okay, so I don't have authority to do it normally, but I will use my other contempt power that I'm just pulling out of my boa's butt and then trying to create around a new allegation against you to enforce the original TRO. Or 2, identify the officials responsible. So you either comply or you tell us who we're going to charge with criminal contempt, and the judge will appoint a prosecutor to do it. And you'll prosecute yourselves for not following my illegal order. And this is like the Democrat hero, right? They are in favor and supporting these judges, defending them. They call this law and order. They call this a threat to democracy. You can't criticize these judges. They're judges. They're impartial, blah, blah, blah. You can see it right here. It's right on its face. They said this is, it's illogical. The district court's order, says this judge, is a clear abuse of discretion, and it does warrant the drastic and the extraordinary remedy of a mandamus. Ooh, Jeb. Punishment through criminal contempt might still be available in these circumstances, but the judge cannot use the threat of that punishment as a backdoor to obtain compliance with a vacated and unenforceable TRO. It's a scam. So the district court's abuse of the contempt power is especially egregious because contempt proceedings against senior executive branch officials carry profound separation of powers overtones and demand the most sensitive judicial scrutiny, which this judge doesn't care about. None of them have because they're, in my opinion, Democrat hacks. Lacking the authority to compel obedience, the district court nonetheless pressured the government to take custody of the alleged aliens that were already out of our country. This intrusion on the president's foreign affairs authority constitutes an unwarranted impairment of another branch in the enforcement of their duties. Because this order exceeds this court's authority to do it and amounts to a clear abuse of discretion, mandamus is appropriate. And he's going to give us some analysis on this. What is an overreach? Assessing the lawfulness of this order, we have to understand what Jeb did. The district court claimed it was undertaking, quote, a compliance inquiry. He's like, all right, let's see what Jeb actually did here. A compliance inquiry? He says the government was disobedient of my TRO, and I'm going to punish you with contempt. Now, after applying the standards for criminal contempt and determining there was probable cause to find a willful violation, he said, follow my orders or else. Now, the purpose of this was to force the executive branch into doing something. Now, the court acknowledged that it can no longer coerce this action because it was vacated, but it did use its contempt powers. Dangling this sword of Damocles to compel the executive exceeds the court's authority and is an abuse of discretion. Over from Judge Rao. Now, let's take a look at the dissent and see what they're complaining about. This is an attack on democracy, blah, 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 judges, good judges, whatever. So let's take a look and see what we got here as we fast forward and come to the dissent, which we're finding right now. Here. Dissenting opinion. Nope, here it is. All right, I can't find it. 1 second. We're on page. It's huge. It's a 110-page decision. So let's see. Thank you. There it is. Boom. There it is. Pillar dissenting. The rule of law depends on obedience to judicial orders. But shortly after the district court granted their order, they disobeyed it. Now, our system of courts cannot endure if we let people defy court orders with impunity. That's not what happened here. There's a reasonable interpretation about what the order actually said. Trump interpreted it to his benefit. The judge didn't like that. That's not Trump's problem. The judge should have written a better order. When it appears that a judicial order has been disobeyed, the court should look into it. And the district judge, he says, in defense of our courts, issued an opinion describing in detail. But colleagues now vote to dismiss this, and this is an error. It would be even more apparent that they have not met a writ of mandamus. The standard is so high, and it's not actually a criminal contempt order anyways. All it did is start to investigate this, okay? He just, in other words, it's not criminal prosecution. He just wants a declaration to know who did this, and he is just investigating the crimes. And Trump could have voluntarily provided all sorts of things to them, and they didn't. And so now Trump is saying we actually complied with this, and so this dissenting judge says they didn't. So we'll see. Now this might go up for further appeal. We'll see what the illegal gangbang lawyers decide to do. But Chad Mizell over from the DOJ, in responding to this, is responding to Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. Whitehouse sent this one in. He said, why did I send this letter to the Chief Justice? Remember, Jeb Boasberg was also the same judge that was in the room with John Roberts. And he was kind of that annoying person that you see like at events and like they ask questions that are completely unreasonable. Like you're like, hey, we're only here to talk about administration of law. Okay, that's it. Everybody understand that? Yeah, you're judges. You're pretty smart. Yeah, got it, right? So we don't talk about politics and stuff. It's an administrative hearing. You understand that? Got it. First question from Boasberg. Why is Trump such a dictator? Okay, he knows that he shouldn't be doing that, and he did it anyways. And so what happened is, of course, he's got some complaints filed against him for that. And now White House is responding and saying, you know, this judge is amazing. And we're not going to read his little crap letter. I think his wife is still, does she still belong to that racist club? I'm not sure. Anyways, that is only a house for whites? I don't know. Anyways, White House, he is upset about the so-called attacks on Jeb. And Jeb just got obliterated by the Court of Appeals. And so Chad Mazzella is saying, sorry, Senator, you hitched your wagon to the wrong horse there, bucko. Now, Kristi Noem was out. Kristi Noem, of course, responsible for a lot of these deportations and the removals of these Tren de Aragua gangbangers and illegal aliens. And here is what she had to say with all this drug and cash contraband laid out in front of her.
The contraband that's in front of me, we have right in 20 kilograms of fentanyl that's in front of me on this table. That's enough to kill 10 million people. And here out of this office, this was interdicted just days ago here in Illinois. And because these federal officers have been out on the streets picking up criminals and dangerous individuals, we were able to take this 20 kilograms of fentanyl off the streets and save over 10 million lives. They're also keeping these weapons out of the hands of criminals that would use it to rob and assault and to murder individuals in these communities. Unfortunately, all of the politicians that have spoken out against their efforts, their desire appears to be that they would like to have more of this on their streets.
They do.
More drugs out there for their kids and families to be victimized. More guns out there committing crimes. That is not the work that we do in ICE. The work that we do is to protect people and make sure that we remove these weapons and drugs off of our streets and hold those criminals accountable who would go forward and continue to use that to harm individuals.
All right. So well done to Kristi Noem. Shout out to Pam Bondi and the DOJ. Very nice victory here. And we'll see what happens, right? If this goes back up to a full panel, we might see some appeals. So there might be a further litigation on this. But as it stands, big victory. Jeb Boasberg, one of the worst judges that we've been covering here in this new modern era, who's been exercising his authority like a tyrannical person, is now reversed and scolded, basically. Okay. It's an abuse of your discretion, Judge, just like everybody has been saying for a long time on our side. You guys have been saying, this is about preserving the Constitution, and all your stuff, which is not even constitutionally literate. These are illegal aliens. They've gotten plenty of due process. They want due process premium. It's like they've never even heard of the concept before. But Boasberg, blown out, big victory. We'll keep our eye on this stuff. All right, so we got that. Now let's turn our attention to the Supreme Court, because that was just the DC court. Now we're going to the Supreme Court of the United States. And here is where this one started. As you can see, what is going on with the, all right, here, you cannot see it, but now you can. All right, here's where we're at. This is the Supreme Court filing, which is another good one. So we'll see where this one goes. Trump's DOJ files an emergency application to the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, they're on break right now, but we have this thing called the shadow docket, which means they might be able to act on this and give us a ruling, because while they're away, we definitely don't want the lower level judges to be able to issue these injunctions and orders that stop the presidency from doing their job while the Supreme Court is on vacation in the beach. So here we have now an application to the Supreme Court. This is in the case of Kristi Noem versus Pedro Vasquez Perdomo. Filed here by D. John Sauer. You know who he is. So here's what it says. We've got an appeal to the Supreme Court in an emergency posture saying we need an immediate administrative stay, and here's why. This case involves a district court injunction that threatens to upend immigration officials' ability to enforce immigration law in the Central District of California. They're hanging the prospect of contempt over every investigative stop of suspected illegal aliens. We can't even stop illegals in California. Not only is the Central District the nation's most populous district overall, at best estimate, the Central District harbors 2 million illegal aliens out of 20 million, making it by far the largest destination for illegal aliens. That's crazy. That's like bigger than countries. Given the administration's commitment to enforcing the nation's in one city in the nation's immigration laws, under which illegal aliens are subject to investigative stops and detention to facilitate removal, it should be no surprise that the LA area is a top enforcement priority. Now, when immigration enforcement stops involve briefly detaining a suspected alien, they have to comply with the Fourth Amendment. We still have reasonable suspicion requirements, but that's a pretty low bar. It's considerably less than preponderance of the evidence. It's just reasonable suspicion. You have some suspicion? Yeah. Is it reasonable? Yeah. All right. That's good. Preponderance of the evidence is a higher standard. You got to go find some evidence and say, well, we've looked at a bunch of evidence and it's preponderant. We've looked at evidence here and there's some here that's good, some here that's not, but on the weight of things, there's more than not. So yeah, by a preponderance, it's there. Reasonable suspicion is way lower. Now, like most Fourth Amendment tests, that context-specific inquiry requires considering the totality of the circumstances. So it's about the cop and the person and the situation. And here, those circumstances necessarily include that illegal presence is widespread. 1 in every 10 people is an illegal, and many locations unlawfully employ illegals and are known to hire them on a day-to-day basis. Certain types of jobs like labor, landscaping, construction are very attractive. They don't require paperwork. In practice, the vast majority of illegals in this district come from Mexico or Central America. Many only speak Spanish. Now, needless to say, no one thinks that speaking Spanish or working in construction always creates reasonable suspicion, nor does anyone suggest that those are the only factors federal agents ever consider, right? They say, you're just going after the Spanish-speaking amigos on the job site. Well, they do speak Spanish, but there's other indicia. And this is the same tactic all law enforcement does too, okay? They don't ever just stop you for one reason, or the good cops don't. They find multiple reasons, especially like in a DUI case. Like they're not going to stop you for speeding and then give you a DUI, although sometimes they will. They'll usually find a couple of reasons: speeding and following too close and unsafe lane change, and they'll mark another bunch of, weaving within the lane, a bunch of other crap in there. Because if you say, I actually wasn't speeding and that was the basis for the stop, well, then why'd they stop you? They have no basis for it, so the stop is invalid. Therefore, the resulting evidence is invalid. So same thing here. Okay, they're going to have multiple backups. So you beat the speeding ticket. It's okay. Pulled you over for unsafe lane change. Pulled you over for following too close. Pulled you over for stopping in the crosswalk, whatever it is, right? Make up stuff. And they do it. A welfare check. We have one city in Arizona. It's like, well, cops can pull you over just for welfare checks. Like that's their argument. So anyways, happens all the time. And now they're saying for illegals, you can't do that. You can't come up and have any conversations with anybody. And suddenly they get special privileges because other cops can only stop citizens, but not illegals because it's profiling or something. They get special privileges. It's premium America for illegals, baby. America plus. But in many situations, such factors alone or in combination can heighten the likelihood that someone is unlawfully present above and beyond the 1 in 10 baseline odds. Like if they're only speaking Spanish, probably higher likelihood that they're an illegal based on the numbers. Now, but there's other indicia as well. Now, ICE agents are entitled to rely on these factors. Everybody can rely on these types of factors. The district court's injunction now saying we can't interferes with federal enforcement efforts across a region that is a major epicenter and hotspot and incubator of the immigration crisis. It's like a little captured zone, captured region. 2 million people. That's bigger than a number of states in the United States. Respondents, a handful of individuals who allege they were previously stopped without reasonable suspicion, and a bunch of unidentified aliens. They're all saying, okay, so all the illegals come in and they say, we're being illegally stopped. There's an unlawful pattern because they're targeting us for our race and our Spanish speaking. So the court then said, okay, you're stopped. You can't arrest, I guess, any Mexicans. Because you're racist. You cops are racist. The district court and the Ninth Circuit both refused to stay that order. So now we're at the Supreme Court. Now, ICE agents under threat of contempt can't detain anyone if they're Mexican, not even after encountering someone who speaks only Spanish and works as a day laborer that has been cited 30 times for hiring illegals. Like, we can't show up to a business that we know is hiring illegals and go in and arrest any of the Mexicans there because they're Mexican and they speak Spanish? And you're going to say that's racial profiling? We got a bunch of other independent reasons for these arrests. Nope, sorry. You guys are racist, and so therefore you can't arrest the Mexicans. That sweeping injunction defies a host of precedent, okay? Start with Article 3. Even assuming, arguendo, that individual respondents or members were stopped without reasonable suspicion, we're not even saying, like, in other words, they're saying they're not articulating reasonable suspicion of a crime or of, a basis for further investigation. It's just like, oh, you're Mexican. Oh, you're Hispanic. Oh, you're speaking Spanish. I heard you. And so you're getting arrested for that reason. So in other words, it's pretextual. They're saying we're definitely not doing that. But even if we said that we were, this court has held that allegations of past unlawful interactions with law enforcement do not show a sufficient risk of future unlawful interactions. Like, what's crazy about this is American citizens don't even get these benefits and these privileges. Like, what these judges are giving, like, they wouldn't give it to you as a citizen. Are you kidding me? Cops can do whatever they want to you, abuse the hell out of you. They do. But you're just a citizen. And so we're all just peasants and, we don't really get premium America. But they do. They say, well, no more arresting Mexicans because they're Spanish speaking. Totally ridiculous. Now, just because respondents were previously detained does not mean that they will be detained again, and let alone on the basis of those factors. The lower courts instead found standing based on a supposed pattern or practice of unlawful stops, which, to be clear, does not exist. We're not doing what they're claiming that we're doing, but the judge is just taking their framing of it and then stopping arrests apparently nationwide, or at least citywide. But neither supplies a sufficient imminent concrete risk that there is going to be unlawfulness in the future. And this court has rejected a theory of standing based on probability. Like, well, it could happen a couple times. So on the merits, the injunction also defies black letter Fourth Amendment law. This imposes a straitjacket on law enforcement officers. And there's case law out the wazoo on this, right? Like, cops have a ton of privileges to do a bunch of things. So the idea that they can't go and talk to somebody because they might be racist or something is ridiculous. It is inimical to the context and case-specific totality of the circumstances that the case law requires. So you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. This person who was arrested and charged, who's filing a habeas petition, had his rights violated because it was a pretextual stop for that one person who was speaking Spanish, and they just targeted him, but he's actually not, so he can make his claim. But one judge can't just say, oh, sorry, ICE are racist because they're going after Mexicans. The lower courts wrongfully cabined the reasonable suspicion inquiry to a holding that no combination of any of those factors is ever reasonable suspicion. And so there is a prohibition on them doing that. Now, the lower court's approach ignores other context, okay? In a district where 10% of all residents are illegal, reasonable suspicion to stop suspected illegals will necessarily encompass a reasonably broad profile. The result is a self-contradictory injunction, Judge. The lower courts, you found standing based on the supposed concrete likelihood that respondents out of millions might be stopped on impermissible grounds, but you refuse to find reasonable suspicion because these grounds describe far too many people. And so therefore, that's the whole point, is they want the district-wide injunction. They don't want to go on a case-by-case basis because then that requires the illegal aliens to contest it individually. They never wanted that. It's the same pattern that we've seen elsewhere. They want the injunctions. Now, the Supreme Court came back down and put the limitation on that. And so you can see this judge is kind of narrowing it down a little bit to districts. But rather than limiting relief to the named respondents, the court enjoined the government to any stops of anyone, okay? You can't arrest anybody because they might be Hispanic or something. To the 20 million inhabitants, whether the stops affect the people who sued or not. The lower courts deemed a narrower injunction unworkable. But under their logic, universal injunctions would be the norm whenever law enforcement officers are alleged to have employed any practice violating the Fourth Amendment. So if you're an American citizen defendant and you're like, man, you're a black guy somewhere, and you say, hey, these cops violated my rights. And there's a systemic pattern of police abusing African-American populations. A lot of American citizens make that argument. They're being abused and attacked, and it's unfair, and defund the police and whatever they say. Okay. Can they file a lawsuit and have a federal judge stop the police from arresting all black people everywhere because those cops are racist? Of course not. It's ridiculous. So why are they doing that? You think a judge somewhere would do that? No. Okay, law enforcement, you're injuncted from arresting anybody who's black. It's ridiculous. So this judge will come and do it for illegal aliens? It's ridiculous. CASA is not so easily evaded. Any one of these fatal flaws would warrant this review. This injunction inflicts irreparable harm on the government. It's lunacy. The injunction wrongfully brands countless lawful stops as unconstitutional, thereby hampering a basic law enforcement tool while turning every single stop in the district into a potential contempt trap. No agent can confidently enforce the law and engage in routine stops when the district court may later refuse to credit that stop and throw the case out. When lower courts have tried to stymie other areas of immigration, they've been met. This court has not hesitated to state other bad orders. This injunction, the Supreme Court, they write, this warrants the same treatment. If you don't intervene, a single district judge will micromanage immigration enforcement in one of the worst districts in the country at the expense of the executive branch. Now, based on the latest census, the government estimates there are at least 15 million illegal aliens and likely several million more unlawfully present in the United States of America, which is such an insane number. It's really hard to even fathom. And it's bigger than probably the majority of states. And I would like to know where that number falls into the global population. It's probably bigger than some Central American countries. Now, millions of them crossed into the country illegally within the last 4 years. Thanks, Joe Biden and Democrats, all part of a plan to ransack the country. From 21 to 24, federal agents encountered 9 million illegal aliens along the border. Many others illegally entered after evading detection entirely. By current estimates, some 12.8 million aliens entered the country illegally during the previous administration. And man, I think there should be people in jail for that. I don't know exactly how you prosecute that, but there should be people in jail for that for whatever reason. And there should be congressional hearings. I mean, this should be like a 5-alarm fire. The fact that happened in 4 years, it's insane. It's treasonous behavior coming from the top, from Mayorkas and Biden and whoever else was in charge of that. The INA, consistent with statutes enacted throughout the nation's history, authorizes us to make arrests. Judge, the law says we can do this. The INA authorizes agents to ask people questions. Here's the law. Immigration officers can exercise those questioning powers without a warrant. It's all codified, all right? Such investigative stops have been a critical component of this. Federal regulations implemented expressly contemplate these stops. In fact, they codify the reasonable suspicion requirement in the Code of Federal Regulations. It's all there. ICE guidance is also there. Immigration officers are taught what reasonable suspicion is. Cops across America, all cops across America, right? They all are understanding of these concepts. And they conduct this on American citizens every day. And no judges come out and injunction them against the citizens. The Los Angeles area is one of the most important regions in the country for immigration enforcement. According to estimates from Homeland, nearly 4 million illegal aliens are in California. And you take those 4 million off the census and you take those congressional seats away from them, that's a lot. That's why they're so freaked out about it. They realize, and that federal money's coming in too. Nearly 2 million are in the Central District of California, this court. Los Angeles County alone had almost 1 million illegals as of 2019, by far the most of any county in the United States. About 75% of those illegal aliens come from Mexico, El Salvador, and Guatemala. Illegal aliens form a significant proportion of their workforce, highly concentrated in certain sectors like agriculture, construction, food, transportation, according to a website. ICE enforcement has been going on for a while. Now, while the previous administration carried out some 26,000 immigration arrests, it didn't alter the dynamics anywhere. Now, in December 2024, LA Council, they issued a sanctuary city ordinance in open violation of federal law. Despite these challenging conditions, we processed about 2,800 immigration arrests in June 1, almost 45 days. And this case began on June 20th. They're writing to the Supreme Court right now. 3 illegal aliens who were arrested in LA, they filed a habeas corpus action in Central District of California. They said, let us go. We're illegals. Let us go. We have more rights than everybody else, so give us some privileges. The judge said, you're right, you do. These 3 individual respondents are day laborers. They were arrested in Pasadena, a donut shop, where past surveillance and intelligence had confirmed that this guy was recruiting illegals. All 3 have been released on bond, right out back into the country, probably never to be seen again. Now, on July 2nd, respondents filed an amended class action complaint and added a bunch of other illegals. And then they expanded the scope of the lawsuit. They said these guys' arrests were illegal and these cops are racist. They're attacking Mexicans who speak Spanish. As relevant here, they allege that immigration officers have adopted a policy and practice, so all immigration officers, of conducting immigration operations in violation of their obligations to stop people only if there is reasonable suspicion. Okay, there is no suspicion. They just think they're speaking Spanish. Respondents in particular said they were targeting certain types of businesses like car washes where they employ illegal aliens. And by the way, the cops do this for everybody, okay? They hang outside pot shops. They hang outside bars. Like they all wait around at 2 a.m. when the bars close and go get DUIs. Like they're targeting certain locations. They target certain people, certain events, certain activities. It's why they do saturation patrols on July 4th. They target criminality, okay? It's not complicated. It's been happening in law since the beginning of time. Respondents also complained that agents have conducted indiscriminate immigration operations, flooding street corners. You mean like when they do saturation patrols with DUI stops? It's good enough for citizens, but not good enough for illegal aliens. Bus stops, parking lots, agriculture sites, day labor corridors, and other places. The district court gave the government 2 business days to respond. The next day, they granted their request. This lower judge stopped all federal agents from conducting any detentive stops anywhere without reasonable suspicion, they say, which of course the judge is going to say never exists. The court specified that this means they cannot rely solely on apparent race or ethnicity, Spanish or accented English, a location, or any type of work, either alone in combination. Okay, so you cannot consider any of these things as reasonable suspicion. You could have all 4 of those. It's not enough. So the court said, well, there was no evidence of any. They said, do you think we're conducting our arrests on this basis? Do you have any evidence of that? No. But they said you are. Okay, but is there any evidence of that? No. The court acknowledged there was no evidence of any official policy, but inferred from anecdotal evidence that immigration officers were only stopping people for those 4 factors. And so as to standing, the court said they have standing for a putative class action. They're going to win. You can't stop people illegally. And they stop the government from conducting any stops unless they have reasonable suspicion that they're stopped in violation or they're in the United States in violation of immigration law. Now, except as permitted by law, this judge said that law enforcement may not rely solely on the following 4 factors alone or in combination to form reasonable suspicion. So you cannot take race or ethnicity into account. You can't take speaking Spanish or speaking English with an accent. You can't take a particular location, so you can't target certain venues, which is a big problem for them, or the type of work that one does, right? So I guess you can't see day laborers. You can't like that. You can't target that. That's not indicia. It's just, it might be an American citizen out there working. Now, the district court denied a request for a stay, and the Court of Appeals largely declined to stay. Now, we have got questions about their standing and whether they can even be here. But the Court of Appeals also said this is appropriate. And so, Supreme Court, we're coming to you. The court described the relief as actually being tailored, and it's stopping only the certain people, but they say we're going to win. This is ridiculous. You know this, Supreme Court. The district court upended immigration enforcement throughout the entire state. There's 20 million illegals here. There's an injunction, and it warrants your review. First, 5 people in 4 organizations who were suing here, they don't even have standing to obtain an injunction because there's no evidence there's an immediate risk of this happening to them. Now, it also undermines Fourth Amendment principles by imposing categorical rules that limit inferences of reasonable suspicion, right? Like other law enforcement agencies don't have these same protections, or we don't have these against other law enforcement agencies. But illegals have these protections, according to this judge, against our federal immigration enforcement authorities, which is crazy because we don't have those as citizens. So why would they have those? And by wrongly holding that the 4 factors, even in combo, can never amount to reasonable suspicion, the judge just decided, oh, I'm just changing the law, and this no longer counts. Finally, the scope of this injunction is also plainly unlawful. By issuing an injunction encompassing anyone, an injunction covers millions of people, and you can't do that. The Supreme Court said, stop your nationwide injunctions. So he said it's not nationwide. It's just county-wide. It's just district-wide. It's the same concept, okay? You have to deal with the people, the actual case and controversy that's in front of you. First of all, they say they lack standing. Their allegations are entirely speculative. They say that ICE has an unstated practice of relying on those 4 factors. But there's nothing to substantiate that. There's 20 million people here. There's a bunch of factors that we use. And so this is just aggravating the problem. They're saying that because this might have happened in the past, that it's going to happen in the future. That's not how this works. You can't issue injunctions for that. They also lack standing as an organization because there is no proof that they're in the components of their organization would have standing to sue on their own. And so therefore they can't bundle it up and suddenly get standing as an organization. The lower courts also attempted to brush away the actual case law about standing. And we'll fast forward through some of the standing stuff, but they don't have it. And the Fourth Amendment that applies to the rest of us, but illegals get Fourth Amendment premium. It's like four plus amendment, you know. The Fourth Amendment guarantees unreasonable searches and seizures, and it extends to brief investigatory stops of persons or vehicles that fall short of a traditional arrest. By virtue of this, however, stops of this sort may be justified on facts. And so officers conduct a stop with reasonable suspicion. They have to articulate facts, make rational inferences from those facts, and they can come to conclusions. And that's what they did here. This person's an illegal. Reasonable suspicion is not a high bar. And it's a low standard, and that is the current standard until this judge got his hands on it. Now, the district court's injunction contravenes the basic principles of the Fourth Amendment that is the rule that applies to the rest of us. To begin, the injunction ignores the court's repeated instructions by categorically barring immigration officers from targeting, I guess, Hispanics or Spanish-speaking people. Those responses are non sequiturs. A categorical rule for a district of this size is still categorical, and you can't do that. So is a rule providing that stops based on these factors are never permissible. Like, why did the judge say that? This court considered the rule categorical because the Ninth Circuit refused to consider other 7 factors, and so the case law supports us. Now, the courts of appeals made their decisions, but the injunction is violating the Fourth Amendment principles. Here, the question is, what is reasonable suspicion for illegal presence? A status that renders that alien subject to detention. And 10% or 2 million people fit that category. Now, in that context, the 4 factors enumerated in the district are plainly relevant. Here's one example. If officers know, based on their experience or past enforcement history, that a particular business has a history of hiring illegals and, for example, has been cited 20 times for failing to verify ID, officers may well have reasonable suspicion to stop people gathering to seek employment there, especially given the concentration of the illegals here. Now, similarly, if agents know that particular jobs are attractive to illegals because they don't require documentation, that sounds like reasonable suspicion too. Likewise, apparent ethnicity can be a factor supporting reasonable suspicion. And for instance, if agents know that members of a criminal organization under investigation are disproportionately members of one ethnic group, even if it would not be relevant in other circumstances, they can consider that. And in context, officers might also reasonably rely on the fact that someone speaks exclusively Spanish. And there's a 1 in 10 probability. There's a bunch of reasons, and you can't micromanage this, Judge. But the judge did. Said you can't consider these 4 things, and it's going to stop their efforts. Here, this is a broad profile. It encompasses a bunch of people who are not even a party to this lawsuit, and it's vastly exceeding their powers. Their injunction violates the limits on equitable powers, and the Supreme Court just gave us a ruling in CASA saying any injunction should only apply to the people who are a part of the actual case in controversy on the filing in this court. Instead, what they did is they stopped everything across the entire district, and they covered millions of non-parties to this case. You, Supreme Court, just said to stop doing that, but they are. And now stopping law enforcement all across the entire county and district. The Court of Appeals was also concerned, but they're wrong. And so you should grant cert and or grant a stay in this so that we can continue to conduct our arrest. So wrapping up here, I think in about a couple pages or so, a stay is warranted, saying this court should stay the order, allow us to conduct our stops based on these enumerated factors, and we request a stay. Signed by D. John Sauer to the Supreme Court of the United States. So we'll see what they do about this. And I think that the argument that they have that CASA should be extended is a good one. That this judge is now essentially getting around the Supreme Court by saying it's not nationwide, it's just district-wide. He's got jurisdiction over that. So it's a little bit of a different argument because that judge has some power over that specific district. But in practice, it's still outside of the principle that the cases should be about the parties and the controversy that's actually in front of them. So nice filing from D. John Sauer. We'll see what the Supreme Court does about that, of course, and keep our eye on it. But in terms of border patrol and border security, they're even working this out over in Maine. So California, of course, is a hotbed of illegal alien sanctuariness. And we're asking about the northern border with those Canadians as well. Here's what's going on out in Maine from the Chief Craig Shepley up there.
Under the Trump administration, Border Patrol agents say they are now operating under an enforcement and prosecution process. Shepley says that leads to more arrest and that DHS is now delivering consequences.
Consequence delivery is primary for us now. We want people who are here illegally and enter illegally understand that the consequence will be delivered when they are apprehended and they will be processed accordingly.
2025 is currently on pace to pass the 2001 number of arrests.
Nice. All right, so they're working away up there. Tom Homan is also excited about a lot of the improvements that have been happening across the border and across the immigration teams throughout the nation.
Man, how times have changed on the Biden administration. ICE wasn't even allowed to arrest an illegal alien. Yeah, Secretary Mayorkas told ICE, you can't arrest somebody for being here illegally. They got to be convicted of a serious crime before you even target them for arrest. And now the left is losing their mind that everybody we arrest, I look at that data every morning, Sean, 70% of everybody we arrest is a criminal. The other 30%, national security threats, final orders, people had due process, a great taxpayer expense order removed by judge, by law, we got to remove them. So the numbers are great, right? But now the left is saying they're not criminal enough. I saw a story the other day, only 1% of deportees are murderers. Really? That is a new level. And another story says, well, a lot of them are DUIs. DUI is a public safety threat where 10,000 people a year die from DUI. Yeah. So now the story is the 70% criminals aren't criminal enough. We removed a record number of public safety threats and national security threats under the Trump administration. He's keeping his promise to American people. We're making this country safer every day.
Yeah, and DUIs are a lot in the illegal alien community. And I saw a lot of that when I was practicing in criminal defense law. See a lot of it going on, especially in Arizona. So, but I guess if you're somebody like Kilmar, that's not a problem. You can traffic people. You can drive without a license. You can drive without insurance or registration. You can have children in your cars shoved in floorboards. If you're a Democrat like Van Hollen, no one cares. So shout out to Tom Homan. We'll see what the Supreme Court does on this and whether we get some activity from the shadow docket. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we keep our eye on this one. All right, we got one more update, my friends, and it's time. Big Tish is in big trouble. She's now getting a subpoena. Lots of questions coming her way from the Department of Justice. Couple of reports on this and a trip down memory lane before we begin, because remember when Tish was out here saying things like this?
No matter how powerful you are, no matter how rich you are,
yeah,
that no one is above the law, and that the law applies to all of us equally and fairly.
That's right.
Breaking news sources are telling us that New York Attorney General Letitia James and her office are under investigation by the Department of Justice.
Oh, yep. So no one is above the law there. Tishy Letish, and she's getting hit with a subpoena. You can see here, New York Post reporting that Tishy Letish got subpoenaed by the DOJ over her $454 million civil fraud case against President Trump. And we were asking about this appeal because we listened to the oral arguments in the Court of Appeals from Tishy's lawyer, who was up there, and the judge was really scolding her, saying, this is ridiculous. How did this case even get brought? Remember, Tish came after Trump, tried to bankrupt him, got a $400 million judgment against him that's now currently on appeal. She's probably going to lose that. But her main claim was that Trump got too good of deals with these banking companies. Like, he was telling them that my assets were worth this, and they did their analysis of his assets, and they said it's actually worth this, and they came to deals. And she re-reviewed those deals with the banks and said Trump actually inflated these things and was taking advantage of the banks, who were independent businesses doing their own audits and not ever taking his word for it, because even in his disclosures, he was explaining, this is my opinion. You should go do your own analysis. It was all by the book. But she said that this was fraud. And we had Areola Nipple judge, remember him, and Tish was there, anger on the Areola, and a bonus torso photo guy who was playing footsie, allegedly, with his clerk. Alina Abba was the judge, complaining about the camera, complaining about the footsie up there because they were passing notes to each other. Anger on the Nip was like, help me, baby. And she's like, yeah, I got you, honey. And handed him notes and stuff. Alina said, this is ridiculous. Then they moved the cameras around. You remember, it was a whole thing. We covered it. Now, she is getting investigated for that because it was fraud from her. Now, the New York Attorney General, Letitia, was hit with subpoenas, man. And I can't wait for this to happen because she is a criminal. Now, there was a jury probe that's coming after the Albany, or sent over by the Albany U.S. Attorney's Office over into Tishy's Tish. The Department of Justice convened a grand jury following the FBI also opening an investigation into the matter. Now, a second subpoena reportedly dealt with the AG's own probe into the NRA and the New York Times, as they first reported. A well-placed source did not indicate whether it also included the recent claims of mortgage fraud. Tishy's people didn't respond to them, but they have responded here. Adam Klasfeld got this one. He said, a spokesperson for New York Attorney General Tishy Letish, who won a $500 million civil fraud verdict against Trump, which is on appeal, she'll probably lose it, responds to the probe launched by Trump. And it's being launched by Joe Sarcone, a special attorney over there as well. Man in Albany. Now, any weaponization of the justice system should disturb every American. That's her statement. What? Any weaponization of the justice system should disturb every American. You did it. That's why you're being investigated, you lunatic. We stand strongly behind our successful litigation against the Trump Organization and the NRA and we will continue to stand up for New Yorkers' rights. But she's a fraudster and a criminal. And remember, the Gateway Pundit, they have done some digging on this as well. And we saw a lot of this from whitecollarfraud.com. And here is a recap on this. But remember, Tishy and Schiff are mortgage fraudsters, allegedly. And here is one of the documents from Tish. Remember, she was saying, oh, no, it's a four-unit building so that I could get 4-unit financing. Turns out it's a 5-unit. She's got multiple electric boxes. It's all sub-united out. It's a scam. So she lied about it. She also lied about her residence in Virginia, saying that she lived there as a primary residence when she didn't. Her Virginia property was not primary residence, and she did not live there. So Tish, as you can see, is in trouble, and she's not happy about it. So life comes at you fast, Tishy. And that was a fun one from the House GOP, digging into that. Here's what it sounded like from Fox News. They were reporting on this, and I saw a couple updates on this. One, Fox is saying that it's going to be Ed Martin, shout out, who got stonewalled by that loser, Tom Tillis, who should be, well, we're happy where he is. He's in the weaponization committee, and now he's going to go after Tishy Tish. It's like music to my ears. To investigate allegations of mortgage fraud involving Pencil Neck Schiff and Tishy Tish. Let's go, Ed Martin. So, good news over there. I think that he's going to be a good individual to lead this. Laura Ingraham also reporting the same. Sources close to the DOJ telling you that Ed Martin will be the special prosecutor overseeing Tish and Adam Schiff. So we'll see if that ultimately comes to fruition or if that is just rumor. But oh, how the tables have turned. And so Tish cannot be happy about that. Now, we also saw this report from Politico giving us some more details, saying this is stemming from a pair of politically charged civil cases. One's against Trump and the NRA. Subpoenas are in escalation. New York Times first reported about it. And of course, her people have responded. She successfully won. They love it in New York. They love these libs, these maniac libs. She ran for office, basically on the promise of prosecuting Trump. Remember, there's that dude. All right. So we got the Tish was prosecuting Trump to try to take him out. She was part of the giant conspiracy, the lawfare conspiracy against the president, indicting him in 4 locations, going after him on the ballot, throwing him off the internet after January 6th, and the list goes on and on. So now Tish is having to face the music, and the chickens are coming home to roost. So here is what Fox News was saying about it when they were reporting.
With the probe, tell Fox News that New York Attorney General Letitia James and her office is under investigation by the DOJ here in Washington. We're told that Attorney General Pam Bondi signed off on the probe. Subpoenas were sent to James's office, and there is a grand jury investigation underway in the New York State Capitol of Albany. The specific investigation, my colleague Jake Gibson, Ashley Oliver, and myself are being told involves deprivation of rights, which in plain language means someone in a position of legal authority violating someone else's constitutional legal rights. Those sources tell Fox News the DOJ is going after James because she took then former President Donald Trump to court, quote, simply because she didn't like him and campaigned on getting him.
She did.
DOJ, led by Bondi, believes she violated his First Amendment rights dealing with free speech. James has said before she believed Trump inflated his net worth to get good deals on loans from lenders and other financial benefits. Ms. James won in a court judgment of over $450 million against the Trump organization. Trump is appealing, and it's pending. The entire scope of the grand jury probe in Albany, Dana, is unclear. Grand juries are secretive, but we've learned from these well-placed sources it stems from a recent strike force set up inside the Justice Department to investigate an alleged plot to tie Trump to Russia in 2016. Sources say that strike force has expanded to other topics. Now, to recap, the Justice Department has initiated grand jury proceedings in Albany, New York, against the Empire State Attorney General Letitia James. But remember, this is important. A grand jury simply decides if there's enough evidence to indict. To be clear, we are told this is very early in the process, and no one, as I speak to you right now, is facing any charges at this time. Fox News reached out to Attorney General James's office multiple times, but we've yet to hear back. Dana?
No one is above the law, even Tish. And so, of course, if she's an innocent person, then she can present her case in court, just like Trump had to do, and she can make her defense known. Now, here's how CNN was handling it. Gunther says they're melting down. Let's see what is going on here.
That's a breaking news coming into the Situation Room right now. The U.S. Justice Department is opening an investigation into the New York Attorney General Letitia James's office. This comes as part of a criminal investigation into James, who previously prosecuted Trump. Let's go live right now to our correspondent, Bryn Gingras in New York. What are you learning, Bryn?
Yeah, well, so we're getting this information. Our Karis Canal confirming that there are now 2 grand jury subpoenas issued by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of New York, looking to get information about James's office, basically trying to see if there was any criminality by her office when she filed that civil lawsuit against the Trump organization. If you remember that lawsuit going to trial and the Trump organization being found liable, having to owe now at this point, because of interest, about $500 million in penalty. So it appears that this is a pursuit to figure out if there was any criminality in the investigation moving forward to that lawsuit. So we're still trying to work out all the details of this, but we also understand there is another subpoena in relation to James suing the NRA, if you remember, the National Rifle Association, which was also found liable after the lawsuit her office files. Now, we know that James is a big adversary of Trump, and we know that Trump has a history of going after people who have gone against him. He's spoken out many times against James herself during the time of that trial, and even most recently. So
remember when she was sitting in there, Alina said that she took her shoes off, stunk the whole place out, and she didn't do anything meaningful in the trial, as far as we know, other than sit back there behind the bar and just like watch the rest of the smarter lawyers actually do the job.
So this is something, of course, that we're going to continue to follow, but that is the latest news that we're getting right now, again, from our Karis.
Okay, so Letitia, she's going to have to be looking for defense attorneys this weekend and has a new task at hand. So that's great news. She is a criminal. She was part of the orchestrated coup against the president to use lawfare to try to take him out, disqualify him from the political spectrum. And arguably, not arguably, they tried to put him in jail. They wanted him to go to prison because they're lunatics. So now the people who abuse their office can be held accountable for their criminality. You can't just make up crimes and prosecute people or try to bankrupt them and take them out because you don't like their politics. That's not the job of the AG. You abused your office there, Tishy. Now you're going to face the music. What a beautiful day it is, my friends. I hope your Friday has been outstanding. If you're just joining us, quick recap on what we talked about. We went through the Boasberg situation because Boasberg Jeb got blown out today and got scolded, essentially, for abusing his discretion. This highly exceptional remedy, an extraordinary remedy called a Mandamus, was granted against him because his decision in ordering Trump to basically do whatever he says was unconstitutional and unlawful, and he is now a loser. Now, we also got an update in the Supreme Court of the United States because D. John Sauer sent this one in, and he was doing this on behalf of Kristi Noem, who's just trying to enforce the law. But some California judge said, you can't go after Spanish-speaking Mexicans, okay? You have to go investigate white Mormons in California who speak English and practice poetry. Go investigate them for being illegal aliens. All right, so of course they're going to the Supreme Court to correct that. Now, we talked about it. And Tish is in trouble. Oh, man, sorry to do that on your screen. Sorry about that. But she's in trouble. And so now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. I hope your week has been just awesome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing to our channel. Thanks for supporting our show. Welcome to new membos. We love our membos. Membos, stick around. We're going to do an after party today, see what's going on, debrief for a little bit. And then, of course, membos tomorrow, we'll see you back here on the Saturday stream. Hey, it's Bruce Rice Babies here. What's up? We got Rob Stoops. We got some nice donos coming in. Man, you guys rock. Thank you for bringing in new membos. Mock Schnell, great to have you. All right, we got memes. Man, we got so many great comments today. Here is this one. It is Happy Friday, baby, indeed. Hope you have a truly wonderful day. Wow, what a nice puppy. And hey, this was from Carrie B earlier today. This is a paint. This is what it looks like in Arizona right now. That's a tub of paint, which is now melted by the sun. That's how it works here. Hey, what's up? Bucky's is Rome. Sharing this meme. This is a bus. It says, making fake cases to keep your political opponent off the ballot and lose an election. Boom! Here comes the train. Your political opponent becoming the most powerful person in the world and criminally investigating you. Yeah, there's that phrase, right? Like, if you come after the king or come at the king, you best not miss, because if you miss, you're in big trouble. And they did. They came after Trump and they were trying to take him out. And they thought that they were going to get away with it if it wasn't for these meddling American MAGA kids who interfered with all this and stopped their effort. But I think it goes to show just how really illegitimate they are, is that when they have to use illegitimate means to keep their position of power, it shows. If they had good ideas and just valid thoughts and actual results from any of their leadership, they wouldn't have to try to steal the power. Bucky's is Rome says the DOJ criminally investigating New York AG James. Very nice. Now let's see the judges involved in all these cases get investigated. From Patrick Bateman from that one movie. Hey, Bucky's is Rome. Yo, my man Rob, what's going on with this? The Project Veritas. Yeah, so that story, I have not looked into that story a lot, but Patricia Lelis is the name of the whistleblower. And I think it's a major claim. So like, it's a major claim that it was Bill Barr and that Bill Barr was the actual person who is the Barr. But yeah, that's a pretty amazing story. Project Veritas is right in the middle of that. I think they released part 2 today. So there might be, more of this coming out, but check that out for sure. And we're going to keep our eye on that one. What's up, user Senior Clay? What's up, Senior Clay? Senor Clay. 34 months as a membo. I don't even know how many babies that is, but coming up on, I think, 4. Which is a lot. Got to get a calculator, though, for that. Hey, thank you, Senior Clay, for being here for so long. Says, evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. Thank you for being here. Casey, the host, what's up? Rated us. Shout out to our friends over from Casey, the host, and on that stream. Shout out, Casey. Appreciate you guys. My friends, that's Casey, the host. Sounds like it's got some good streaming going on over there. Hey, the Rubos. Yeah, this was a crazy scene. I don't know if you guys saw that one, but President Trump, the peacemaker, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. Matthew 5:9. Peacemakers who sow in peace reap the harvest of righteousness. James 3:18. Yeah, and Trump, man, they were like shaking hands. It was a fun scene. Hey, the Conlay. What's up? The Conlay is here. Thank you, the Conlay, for bringing in 5 new membos. You rock. We got Benny Boys here. Tripping over trauma. What's up, TM Carter? Mother, Maggie Bogdan, all in the house from the Canlay. Thank you for being a membo and bringing in 5 new friends. You're amazing. Thanks for doing that. Mock Schnell, you too, my man. Look at this. 20 membos coming in. Lars Corville, what's up? Griffey, Sheila, Economath, silly name for you. Southern Mom is here. Upside Down, what's up, Donka Horse? We got Dana McCoy, Quigon, Lowell, what's up, Joker? We have the Teresa Kaufman in the house. What's up, Teresa? M. Weaver, Don, Second Class Citizen, Jeremiah, Jen the Couch Fairy, Avos, and Derek, as long with Uncle Mitch Sprints. Brought in his membos, courtesy of Mock Schnell. Thank you, Mock Schnell, for doing that. Welcome, 20 new membos. Los U1G, also a membo. Thank you for that, Los. Welcome aboard. We'll see you in the after party. Chubby, what's up? Boasberg should be both sanctioned and removed from the bench for not only blatant mishandling of this case, but his prior statements and outright admittance of bias. Yeah, and it's like, do you think that maybe Chairman Jim Jordan could take a look at that decision from the Court of Appeals and initiate impeachment proceedings, perhaps? Rick D. To follow up on the morning, the Crew Dragon Endeavor has now undocked and they're on the way back home. Man, shout out to them. Safe travel, safe flights to the Dragon Crew. Wild Endeavor. And that, of course, that would come from Rick D. Rick, you probably want to jump out of that, don't you? Rick D, he's done like 5,000 jumps. He's like, he's following this morning. He's probably just like salivating. Like, man, I'd love to jump out of that International Space Station. I don't know if you can do that, Rick, but I can see why you're following it. Rob Stoops. Okay. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Are judges allowed to appeal the appeals court that overruled their decision? If so, they shouldn't have that right. That just shows the judges making his ruling is personal. Yeah, so I think like the people who lost, the lawyers for the other side, they will probably appeal that to the rest of the panel. But and I'm sure they could appeal that again to the Supreme Court, right, and keep taking it up to say that judge was right and have him validated after the fact. But the man, it's just like an order from your boss, like a military officer ordering you. You can't do that. We know how this works. That's illegal. You can't do it. So Rob Stoops, thanks for the dono, and thanks for being number one in the chat. You rock. What's going on? Off Label Podcast says there's an active pew-pewer in Atlanta. Officer was shot. Active site as of me sending. Man, sorry to hear that. So prayers for our friends. I see it on CNN. Police believe the gunman... Oh, the CDC? He was going to take out the CDC is what they're saying? Okay. Oh, and Crockett claims her black staffers are racist for snitching on her. LMFAO. I saw that. So we'll probably talk about that tomorrow on the Membo stream. But Jasmine made a video. She's like, that article that we read yesterday is totally fake. She made the video from... I'll just play it. Here, let's just find it right now. I think I have it saved. She made the video. We covered this yesterday. Jasmine Crockett was literally making this video. So yesterday, the article said that she never left her apartment. Remember? It says she never even leaves her apartment. She never comes into the office. Okay. She just sits around in her office, in her apartment, and never even comes in. So she calls into this video and says that article's ridiculous. And she's still in her apartment, validating the entire article. It's like, oh, can you just go into your office at least and make the video there? No, she can't be bothered because she's Jasmine Crockett. She's better than us. Wes Downer, what's up? The mining business is good this week. Man, shout out to our miners out there. We love when the mining business is good because then it's good for our Membo business. Wes D, what's up? 10 Membos coming in. Shoto Khan Smith, welcome. Boss Mayor, Ron West, what's up? Reachery. We got James Johnson, Shonda Nal here. John Witt, what's up, Jill? Whiskey Green, Mama Sema, and others. Gifted Membos, courtesy of Wes D. Glad you're doing well in the markets there, Wes. Trino Galaxy writes this. All moon for the dishonorable, corrupt, slaver-loving judge. All moon. Do you mean like moon him with your buttocks? Is that what you're saying, Trino? I don't know. Rob Stoops. Can't they prosecute sanctuary state officials for enabling drug trafficking accessory after the fact? Yeah, I mean, yeah, they could. I think that they probably could. I think they probably could go after, like, for example, that one, remember that one LA, like, deputy mayor or whatever she was? I forget her title. But she came out and said something like, hey, where are the cholos at? Where are the vatos at? You know, where are we going to go get all of our amigos out there to go crack heads against these ICE people? And then she deleted that video. Remember that? Yeah. So something like her. Yeah. It sounds like she's a co-conspirator. Arrest her. 1R5. Time to impeach the district judges. There we go. Yeah. Like, where's Grassley on judiciary? Where's Jim Jordan on judiciary? Court of Appeals just said this judge abused his discretion. Clearly. And it wasn't even close. So is that misconduct? If he's biased and attacking the White House illegally? I think so. Rubos. Hey, just saw that Trump is going to have a face-to-face meeting with Putin next Friday. Wow, that's going to be a big one. So the highly anticipated meeting between myself and Putin will take place Friday, August 15th in the great state of Alaska. Wow, look at that. Putin's coming here? Pootie's coming here? That's crazy. Further details to follow. Thank you for your attention to this matter. In Alaska? Crazy. Rick D, what's up? MP number 1 today. So that's his jump. So yeah, he's like, Rick, I told you, he jumps out of airplanes all the time. So you're probably trying to jump out of the International Space Station, but that's close enough. Bruce Rice, what's up? 34 months as a membo. Great to have you here, Bruce. Thanks for being here for 34 months. It's a long time. We've been through some stuff together. Always a pleasure, Rob. Thank you for all the work of your brilliant team and mods. Mods for sure, and the team. Amazing. Bruce Rice, baby, thank you for that. Thanks for being here for 34 months. Hey, Apollo 13 Commander James Lovell has died. I saw that too. Yeah, rest in peace to James Lovell. Gemini 97, man, good for him. King of Biltong, you know what Biltong is here. We got B12, creatine, iron, and zinc. You can get it at biltongusa.com. Use code Robert. You'll save 10% off. You'll have some extra creatine, B12, iron, zinc, and you'll have some more protein, which we all need. Rick D, thank you, King of Biltong, for the dono. Rick D, wait. Isn't a wrongful arrest a 1983 constitutional action under federal laws based on an individual incident? Yeah, that's the point. Exactly right, Rick. It's like you should make your claim based on the totality of your circumstances. And everybody else who's charged with a crime has to do that. Well, we arrested you. For what? Drugs? Why? Well, because I saw you put something in your pocket. Okay, well, I can put anything in my pocket. Well, you were on a street corner. Okay, and that street corner was where we see drugs, a lot of drugs happening. So we saw you doing something, and it was evidence of a crime. And so we stopped you, and we have reasonable suspicion that you are selling drugs. And so we stop you for that. But if you're an illegal and you're committing a crime of illegality in that regard, apparently you can't be talked to because you're better than everyone else. Chubby Stubby says everyone else gets investigated for their criminality except illegal aliens. All right. So Chubby, hey, they picked up these illegals from a freaking donut shop. What were they looking for? Illegals working as cops? Well, I don't know. I don't know if there's like an illegal, I don't know, like a papusa something. Maybe there's a papusa ring. Is it like that chicken thing, that chicken shop in Breaking Bad kind of a thing? I don't know. I think more likely than not, it's probably where they're picking up day laborers. And they just happen to be outside the donut shop, which is next to the Home Depot or whatever. Hey, Bill Dozer. What's up, Bill Dozer? Bill. What's up, Bill Dozer? We don't like Bill Nye. That guy's gone friggin' nuts. He used to be like a kind of a fun science guy when I was like 7. But now he's just a lunatic like the rest of them. Bill Dozer, what's going on? Thank you for gifting a membo. Bill Dozer gifted a memo to 1R5. How amazing is that? Linda Walling. What's up, Linda? Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for the dono. Thank you for being here. Linda Walling, T30 in the house. It's Bruce Rice, baby. That's what we thought. We thought it was Bruce was in the house. What's up? Bruce Rice, baby's here. Bringing in 50 membo friends. What's up? Another Yarn. Don Whitaker. Rimu Nimu. Daddy Stabs. What's up? Movable Feast. Donka Horse. Danish. Mountain Goddess, Wonder Near, Tom Fitness Hot. He's got some nice biceps too on him, Tom. OG True Seeker. What's up? Randy's Retired, Jojo, Bruce Kruger, Rainmaker Jim. What's up? Happiness is a Choice. Gooey Barracuda, Clark Blount, Paula Campbell, Letty, Ziddy Champ, No F's Given, Chef Debbie, Michael Costa, Bart K. What's up? Don Whitaker. No Longer a Peed Off American is here. Michael D. Sunshi. Chaos Sonic, D. Poston, Dr. C. What's up, Gary Yo? Canto Rock, Salty Bee Lady, Antoine Real Barato. What's up, Romeo Bravo? CGI Joe's here. We got Zaxis, Ray Gutowski, Hitchhiker Effect, Whistle Stop Kafefi, Jerome, Mr. Pastulio, Rebecca Glasnow, Jessica Bird, Righteous Gemstones, Browns, That MAGA Life. We got Miss Minder Sue, AKJ81, Snark Sentinel, James Fitch, and Anthony Montgomery. All gifted membos, baby, from Bruce Rice, baby. Dun, 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 dun. Thank you, Bruce, man. That's 50 new membos. Thank you for doing that. Welcome, friends. Very nice, very generous. Can't wait to see you in the after party coming up in just a few minutes. Curtis Bartle, what's up? 37 months as a membo. I need a new hat. What happened to the merch? It's a good question. Yeah. Should we get some new hats? Thank you, Curtis. Thanks for being here for 37 months. You know, the merch thing, thank you for that. Curtis, we appreciate you. M. Fundy, what can I do as a citizen in Massachusetts? about the 0% representation for Republicans. Trump won 40% of the votes. Not one Republican rep. What can I do? I mean, move is the answer, unfortunately. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. So you might have some reapportionment, like if you have a new census and you don't count illegals, for example. So like maybe Massachusetts goes from like 5 to 4. So they lose a Democrat seat. They don't count the illegals. They lose one seat. That goes over to a red state. But that doesn't solve your representation problem. So yeah, it's a problem. And I think in some of those states, people are talking about going to a proportional, changing the system, in other words. So you split almost like kind of like you do with electoral votes. Jump Iva, what's up, Jump Iva in the house? Thank you for the thumbs up, Jump Iva. Very nice of you to do that. Thanks for being a member as well. Bucky's is Rome says, James is also under investigation for violating the rights of the NRA. Currently under 3 criminal investigations: mortgage fraud, Trump's rights, and the NRA, which is great. Yeah, I think you could have a couple cases. So like one would be also in Virginia where she lied there. The other one would be in New York. Although I don't know if you can charge that federally, but yeah, she's in trouble. Milan. Obviously, Big Tish wasn't at the Sunday school for the He Who Cast the First Stone Bible lesson. Yeah, well, she was an operative, and I think she thought she was part of the winning team and that they were going to win indefinitely and they were going to be undefeated. And now she lost it. What's up? Cardinal O'Flanagan says, watch out. One of Tish's eyes is trying to make a break for it. I know, one of those images they got. She was like, what is that? E. Texley, about the bounties on Maduro and Cabello. Eric Prince has been banging the drum for several months. The U.S. should keep raising the bounties until a group of Venezuelans remove him by whatever means they deem workable. Hopefully Venezuela's problem will be cured by Venezuelans and we stay out of it except for cutting a couple of checks. Yeah, we were talking about that this morning, E. Texley on the Memo stream. And we were asking, why is there a bounty? Like, why don't we just declare war? Like, if he's the president of Venezuela, like, why don't we just go take it out, take him out, just go bomb him, do, something. Like, if we'll bomb Fort Dow, why don't we just go bomb, Maduro? But they say he's not actually the legitimate president. So we read through the State Department release on that. And they said, no, he's not the actual legitimate president. So we're not going to do that, right? Don't, what's up? Pool on Jeb handing down another order tomorrow. Yeah, he might order the Court of Appeals in contempt. How dare you do this? I have total power to do it. Yeah, I mean, he's getting he got smacked down by the Supreme Court and didn't care. So there might be more truth to that, Don't. We'll see what he does next. But they were pretty unequivocal about it. So, but he doesn't really care. I mean, the Supreme Court told him last time and he still didn't care. Crafting with bits. Any word from Texas Dems who had to respond by today at 5 p.m.? Yeah, I think they did file. I think Gene Wu did file a response. And we'll get into that, I think, tomorrow in the members only stream. Just didn't have time to squeeze it into the day. But yeah, I think they did respond. Gene Wu was also out. And we saw Abbott, the governor, he said that he was going to just keep calling special sessions. So if they want to just wait it out, we can play that game. Chubby Chick. What's up, Chubby Chick? Good to have you here. Thank you for sending in a nice dono and that nice lemon, laughing and enjoying the show. Thank you, Chubby Chick. We appreciate that. Off-Label Pod says, LMFAO. I like how you're taking those jabs now. I think, I'm pretty good at taking punches in the face. It's a skill set I have. Uncle Bozy. Rob, if you had the opportunity, would you want to go to space? I mean, really go, to the space station, not a fake one like those women did. 100%. Yeah, I think 100%. I mean, it'd be one of those things I would say yes to and commit to before I thought about it, Like one of those. And then I'd commit to it 100% in, I'm in, sign me up. And then after it'd be like, holy crap, we're doing it? But I think I would do it. Yeah, I think I would definitely do it. I would be nervous as hell, but I would do it. I've always been fascinated with space. As a boy, there's certain things you're into, you get 4 options. It's cars, sharks, dinosaurs, or space. If I had to put in any one of those, 4 boys get 4 options. That's it. I was more of a space guy, but to be fair, I went through basically all those phases. I think most boys do. So you go through, a space phase and a dinosaur phase. Went through most of them. Yeah, what's up? Well, not those jabs. Is that what you're talking about? I don't really know what that comment's about off label, but thank you. Rubos. Rob, we want to give you a special thanks for letting us know about Suno.ai. We have been having a blast playing around with Suno. We created a short jingle and a longer song for my father's miraculous rock soup. We posted a short 2-minute video with the song on our YouTube channel, and here's the link for your enjoyment. So my friends, check this one out. It's from the Rubos, and they've got a Kickstarter going right now. And you can grab the link to their Kickstarter as well. I think we have that over on the Rubos. I think I posted this. Kind of started this little idea here where we have a community tab over on the Watcher Files website now. So under the community tab, we got a couple of links over here. So the Rubos have a Kickstarter link. Heidi Productions, who's an amazing individual who is available for hire. You can check her link out. So you can go to watcherfiles.com, click the community tab, and you'll see some of these links where we can support some of our friends in our community and their efforts because we want to do that. And so the Rubos, amazing. So they also got a song out there supporting their Kickstarter, and they make the best salt in the world. I don't know what kind of salt you put on your food, but if it's not Rubos salt, I don't know what the hell you're doing. Deluxe Night. Hey, our farmer in the house. TGIF, Rob, and Watcher fam. Hope you all have a beautiful weekend. Making good choices, indeed. Mrs. Deluxe Night and I went and saw Shinedown, Dance Kid Dance, tour last night. Drove all the way over to Portland, Oregon for the show. We got home at 3 a.m. Bush and Shinetown, like Bush the band, put on a great fan-driven show. They used to come through my town every year until COVID happened. It was the first concert we have attended since COVID because all the cities we didn't want to visit for concerts. Look at this. Look at these photos, man. You two look great. Shinedown. So I guess that's a band. I was thinking about Bush, the band. I remember Bush coming up. What was his name? Gavin. Wasn't he like dating like Gwen Stefani? Something like that. I can't believe I just remembered that. So yeah, I think I remember that, right? I remember that band. So awesome. Deluxe Night, man. Looks like you guys had a great time. Shout out to you and your beautiful wife. You guys look happy as can be. Love to see it. Thank you for sharing that with us. Very nice. Deluxe Night. 10 new membos. Yeah, Bush, there were some good songs. I think I knew how to play one of those songs on the guitars, like na 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 na. That one. Yeah, from Bush. Deluxe Night, Mart Rowe, what's up? Crafting with Bits, Jacob Castro, what's up? Guts and Blood, Charlie, Jimma, 57 Ranger, Nixie Nix is here, Wade Away, and RT Sunshine in the house, courtesy of Deluxe Night, our farmer, feeding us with food and membos. We got B Money in the house. What's up, B Money? Bringing in Deluxe Night. Look how serendipitous this is. Rub some dirt on it. Says, Rob, did you forget the merch behind the stack of Joe Neerman tracksuits in the treadmill closet? That's funny. Yeah, I never got my my order of the Joe Neerman tracksuits. That's good logic, right next door. But I do need those. Yeah, I do need to get my tracksuits. I like to wear them on the show. Sharpie Guy, hey, picked up pupusa from Costco yesterday. Did you? Sharpie Guy says, it's pretty much, in my opinion, like biting in a handful of cornflakes without milk or nothing else. Completely over it at this point. Yeah. Love you, Watchers, and Rob. Blessings, y'all. Hilarious. Yeah, hilarious, Sharpie Guy. Off Label says, I meant the snarky comments you make during the show. Oh, okay, so those jabs. I thought you were saying, am I taking the other jabs? No, definitely not doing that. So thank you for the clarity on that, Off Label. Yeah, sometimes we have a little more snark than other days. Depends on the day. Thank you, Off Label. Hopefully you're having a great stream tonight or this weekend or whatever it is you're doing. Off Label Podcast right next door. Number 1 in the chat. You're amazing. Thank you. Ravicus. This one came in from Libs. But who is going to pick our crops? Oh, it's the new model. It's the Juan Deere 3000. Yeah, Deluxe Night, our farmer, is going to have to get a couple of those. He'll have to make videos with all of his Juan Deeres running around feeding us. Hilarious. It's taco night for Raph. Raph L. Man, tacos sound good. We're doing pizzas tonight. We like to make our own pizzas on a pizza stone in the ovens. Turn your pizza up to 500. Get a big, fat, thick pizza stone. Let that puppy cook in there for 40 minutes or so it gets nice and hot. Then you just throw your pizza right on top. Boom. Delicious. All right, let's go say hello to our friends on X. And then we're going to wrap it up, have a members-only after party. And we'd love to have you come join us. Let's see who's joining us over on X. We got a couple of comments. And here they are. James Pepper. What's going on? Nina Johnson. Yeah, Nina says, I can't wait to hear how Letitia's case goes. I know, it's going to be a lot of fun, Nina. We're looking forward to it. Donette, Judge Boasberg should have to repay the USA for all the legal housing, security, and transportation expenses his abusive actions have caused. Yeah, how much time and money and delay? We got months of delay. It's ridiculous. This one came over from B. Torn. Turn on the replay option so we can find where to change the YouTube handle names. Are we not doing that right now? Hopefully it's on. Let's see. Do we have chat replay on? Yeah, we got it on. Live replay chat. It's on right now. Yeah, it's on. All right, so it's on. So thank you, B. Torn. Yeah, it's on right now. James Pepper also sharing this one. Was selling green cards. Bill Barr selling green cards? Man, so yeah. So Project Veritas has an expose going on over there. So shout out to James O'Keefe and that crew doing some good work. My friends, what a beautiful stream it has been. Happy Friday. Thank you for being here and joining us throughout the week. We are going to pause here for the evening. We're going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com, and members, stick around because we're going to hang out. We'll debrief, see what else is going on, wrap it up with some additional comments, and see what you're up to this weekend. And then we'll come back next week to get into it again. Now, want to thank our amazing mods who have helped all day and all week. Our amazing mods. Today we got Donut Mind Me, John clipping for us, K Bean, Carrie B. Shout out to Neuro D, Janek, and Dog Digger. Our friends G-Gum, Elliot, and Just Rhonda, all helping out around here. Very grateful. Thank you to our amazing mods. And my friends, thank you to you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for liking this video on your way out. Thanks for subscribing if you haven't already done so, because we want to make sure that we don't miss you on the next one. Because although we're pausing here for the weekend so that we can get outside, get some fresh air, spend some time with our family, our friends, the people that we love, to rejuvenate our souls and our spirits so that when we return on Monday, we are roaring and ready to go, because we'll be back here. And in order to be back here appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it an amazing weekend, my friends. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers, truth on our side. Watching the watchers, we won't be denied. Watching the watchers, eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through